welcome to AltaSea here at the Port of Los Angeles. For those of you who don't know, AltaSea is a nonprofit that was formed about over 10 years ago to take over this 35-acre campus here in the Port of LA and turn it into a modern blue economy hub for education, for workforce training, and importantly for developing the blue economy, which we're going to talk about a lot today. Great jobs, great ways to protect the planet. My name is Terry Tamminen. I'm the president and CEO of AltaSea. Can everybody hear me? Yes. There we go. Great. That was just sort of a cheesy way to get everybody else who's standing around talking to come take a seat. So again, welcome to AltaSea. I first of all want to thank our amazing staff that put on this wonderful event. I think all of you know my partner, Jenny Crusoe, the founder of AltaSea. Give her a great big round of applause. And Robin Aubie, who I think is in the front waiting for the arrival of Senator Richardson, and all of our amazing staff. Please give the staff and, importantly, the volunteers a great big thank you. We're joined by some of our board members today, importantly, Geraldine Natz. Geraldine, would you raise your hand? Stand up and wave. Geraldine, some of you know her from her former life running the Port of Los Angeles, and now she teaches at USC and writes amazing books about the history of the port. If any of you have ever seen the movie Chinatown and you think LA has got a seedy past, you have to read Geraldine's books. It's actually all about the port. Let me tell you, there's movies in those books. And I think Lee Williams is here, Harbor Commissioner Lee Williams. Where's Lee? There he is. Give him a great big round of applause. And we're about to be joined by State Senator Laura Richardson, who I'll introduce in a moment. But first, let's have an acknowledgement. Cindy Alvitre is here. Where's Cindy? Oh, there she is. Cindy, you know, is a mother and a grandmother. She's an educator and an artist and an activist for over 3 decades and a descendant of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles and Orange County. Importantly, she's a co-founder of the Tiat Society, which has an exhibit over there, and she'll tell you more about. She currently teaches American Indian Studies at Cal State University, Long Beach. Please welcome Cindy Alvitre.
I think I have to stand on my, no, I don't have to stand on my tippy toes. Hyam te thamet. Hyam te thamet. Can everybody say that? Hyam te thamet. You have just said good morning in the original language of the people here. Good morning. Hyam te thamet. I'm always honored to be here. I'm here with my family, with Toipurina Pahavit. Raise your hand. She's also been an intern of Dr. Lynn Dodd this summer, working here at AltaSea, USC Marine Lab. Victoria Aguilera, she is part of our Tongva community and she's our genius. We get the guys going. Okay, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. That's why I learned how to do it. So this morning I want to acknowledge, and the land acknowledgement is not just something that is done by us, it's something that we should be doing every day, all of us, to that which gives us life. As a person of this land, and my ancestral village was right here. It was a village of Huhuibit, right here. And I have a photograph over there, if you come to Tiat Society table, that shows an image, a photographic image of what this site looks like back in the late 1800s. Well, probably about 1870. It's astounding. And here we are here today, gathered as human beings. We're all here, right? At this time on our planet, it's important. And an acknowledgement is just that. It's extending the respect. So therefore, I want to acknowledge the ancestors of this land. I want to acknowledge and gratefulness to all of the ancestors and all the people who struggled so that we can exist and we can live in the convenience and luxury that we have today. My hope is, in acknowledging that, is that we all have respect for this land, especially for our ocean water, and for each other as human beings. We all come from earth-based tribes. I don't care where you're from. Sorry, go back. We're all from earth-based tribes, right? Does anybody disagree? I want to hear a bigger applaud than that. That's an acknowledgement of all of your ancestors, okay? As we move into the future, the acknowledgement, I ask our ancestors, all of our ancestors, to support us at this time so we can move forward as one unified species of people to build a foundation for our young people and for our planet and for the nature forever. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. And before I introduce our special guest, I wanted to acknowledge these little tokens that are up here on the podium. As I mentioned, AltaSea is a nonprofit, in case you didn't know. And one way you can support is by joining, becoming a member of AltaSea. You get one of these great caps or one of these great bucket hats or one of these great t-shirts. Right over there, my colleague Michelle, she's waving back there by the red sail. Give her a round of applause for all of the help she is. And again, for all of our volunteers. And just again, to let you know a little bit more about AltaSea, we took over this property. As I mentioned, AltaSea was formed a little over a decade ago, but it took a while to negotiate with the lease, to raise the money to renovate this place. This is a 110-year-old warehouse you're sitting in, and this is all the original steel work. So we took it over, spent over $50 million getting to this day where we reskinned all of it. We put in these beautiful translucent doors. We put in these glass doors so that every one of our tenants who are now moving in and building out their space, as you can see behind, can have their own entrance and so forth for all of the blue economy work and education and workforce training programs that they're doing. So when we say blue economy, what do we mean? We mean aquaculture, so things that we can derive from growing kelp and seaweed. We can extract food and fuel and pharmaceuticals and industrial colorants and all kinds of other exciting things by growing seaweed. We can sequester carbon. You're going to hear more about that today. We can obviously grow protein on land as well with recirculating aquaculture systems indoors. All that exciting technology of the food and sustainability of the future will be happening right here at AltaSea. We can also generate new clean energy from the ocean. So EcoWave is going to be dedicating their new wave technology demonstration right here in the port, right across the street from us on berth 7071. On September 9th, there's going to be an event to dedicate that, and you're going to start to see energy being derived from our waves. And that's something that we were proud to sponsor Senate Bill 605 in the state of California to incentivize more companies to come here and install wave and tidal energy technologies all up and down the coast to help us achieve our net zero carbon goals and our clean energy goals. And by the way, we're well on the way to those goals. I was at a dedication ceremony in the Mojave Desert this past week for a new solar power plant with batteries so that when the sun isn't shining, that power plant can still produce energy. And they pointed out that some days in California now, we are 100% powered by renewable energy. Yeah. And that doesn't just mean helping our planet, our climate, it means helping our local air quality. It means fewer emissions going into the air. It means people with better health as a result. And I think wave and tidal energy can be the next big thing helping with those goals. We also do things like carbon capture and sequestration because we've dumped a lot of carbon pollution in the air. You're going to hear about that today, how we can extract that from the ocean because the ocean has absorbed a lot of our carbon pollution over the years. And we work with really exciting technology, underwater robotics, mapping, sensors, underwater construction. Anything to do with the blue or the ocean economy is welcome here and will be showcased here. And as I mentioned, now that we've finished renovating these 110-year-old warehouses, all of our partners are moving in. That lab that's being built behind you there in that construction zone will be the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they'll be showcasing what they're doing in there. You'll be able to see the different species they work with and so forth. We have a company called Ocean Well moving in here that is extracting fresh water from seawater, but in an environmentally sustainable manner. There's companies that are doing underwater robotics and all the other things I mentioned that are now building out their space here in our warehouses. So keep coming back because every time you do, you'll see something new. But it's my great pleasure now to introduce our State Senator Laura Richardson, who was elected in 2024 to represent California's 35th Senate District. She's really one of the great public servants of many, many years who's committed to improving the lives of our residents when you talk about cleaner air and more economic opportunity and helping our communities. You might not know this, but she played collegiate basketball for UC Santa Barbara, and she got her bachelor's degree in political science at UCLA, and then while working full-time, she earned an MBA from USC. So this is somebody who's highly educated and is helping make our state a much better place. In 2000, she was elected to the Long Beach City Council, and after 6 years, was then elected to the California State Assembly, and then in 2007, the U.S. House of Representatives, where she was in the U.S. House for about 6 years, and then went on to continue to serve here in the U.S., in California, I should say, in our state Senate. So please welcome Senator Laura Richardson.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Well, isn't this wonderful? Isn't this wonderful? Yes, yes. I only made one mistake. You know, as a state senator, you start your day at about 8 o'clock and you end 8 p.m., so I forgot the memo of wearing blue, so you'll have to forgive me for that. I am so excited to be here. Before I begin any comments, I'd like anyone who, either yourself, an organization, or a company you represent, if you helped with some of the early funds to make what was a vision a reality, would you please stand? So any donors, supporters, hard workers, board members. Do I have any here? Sure I do. I see one lady. I wanted to have any of you who were here present to stand because as was stated, I've been working in public service for quite some time. And I remember when AltaSea was something people talked about. It wasn't here. When you talk about donating and supporting on a vision of what someone says something's going to be, that's a lot harder than when someone comes to you and says, hey, will you support my program? Here are the results, and so on. But I just wanted to extend a special thank you for those of you who saw what many people didn't see. You saw what this place could become. And so again, congratulations. Thank you. Now, as was stated, I am the state senator in this area. I represent starting San Pedro, Wilmington, Carson, Compton, Watts, Lawndale, Hawthorne, Inglewood, so over 1 million people. But I live right here in San Pedro. And so this is close to home to me. It's something that it really is, we are paying forward, is an example that I would give you. Sometimes you make an investment and you're paying for what you know you're going to receive in the future. And so we've had some pretty tough times right now in the state. I don't know if you've heard, but we've had unexpected, what we've had to find funds for, over $100 billion regarding the fires, which we weren't expecting. And then you have the cuts in Medi-Cal and Medicare that we weren't expecting to have to backfill, and that's been over $200 billion. And so we're talking about quite a lot of money. But when I go out and work and speak on behalf of organizations, sometimes I'm offered funds to help with nonprofits. And so Terry doesn't know this, but on behalf of Terry and a very hardworking young lady, Jade, you guys are going to be seeing a $2,500 check coming to use as you may will. Yeah. And my commitment is that next year we're going to see many more zeros behind that. Yes, that's what we need. I sit on the Budget Committee and Appropriations, in addition to banking and finance. And so I sit where the money is. And so I'm new this year, just been there about 7 months, but I've already put in some requests for our following years going forward. So I'm looking to do my part as a representative. We need people not just giving speeches, but people who are going to put money into programs that are doing the good work. And I intend upon doing my part. So thank you. Now, I understand in addition to celebrating the innovation of AltaSea, some of the things that Terry mentioned, we also have some students who have participated in an intern program. Is that the case? All right, could I have our students please stand that participated? Wow. Now, when do you complete the program? Yesterday. All right, well, what I'd like to offer to you is our office, we're going to do a letter congratulating you for participating, because when you're going to college and you're writing your essays and things, it really helps to have some letters of support. So our office will get to Terry. If you get us all of their names, we'll have letters that we'll have for you that you can put in your college packets, all right? And congratulations. You may be seated, thank you. You know, it's so exciting to see the young people, because as I work in Sacramento, jobs, the whole job market is changing. What used to be jobs that we worked on, when you consider AI and that whole influence in AI is artificial intelligence, you know, the job market is really changing. But what's not changing is our environment and our climate. And to the degree that we can have great young people who have an interest in our climate, have an interest in working to preserve our climate, while still being able to utilize the fruits of what our climate can provide, is really a testament. So I'm so excited to see what you're going to go off and do. And I also see some friends here that help us to keep this economy going and who've been instrumental. And I see Sal here, representative with ILWU, who's been a strong supporter. Thank you, Sal. And I also, earlier, we had our board member with the Port of Los Angeles. These are all individuals who, when the rubber hits the road and we get tough on funds, they're the ones that step up and help us to keep going. Yes. Thank you, Richard. So as I close, let me say this, and it's important when you give speeches, you don't take too long, right? In closing, I just want to share this with you. I grew up here in Los Angeles. You know, some people back in the day, there weren't that many of us that actually grew up here in LA, have lived here all of our lives. And when I look at our community, I tell people we're the best kept secret. People, San Pedro, it's like they know of other different communities, but they don't know a lot about the people that work here, the people that live here for generations. And we live here because we choose to live here. We live here because this is a special place. And AltaSea has proven to be an exact example of that. This is something that's so unique, so different, that we're going to have people coming not only from the State Department, but federally looking at the innovation and the work that's being done. And the work that's being done here is really going to be what we will see our future going forward. So with that, I want to say congratulations in your open house. Count me in on the fight of raising the necessary funds to keep programs like this going. And with that, I have a certificate to present to Terry. On behalf of the California State Senate, Certificate of Recognition presented to AltaSea in honor of your open house and in recognition of your continued oceanic research and innovation in California. Congratulations, and thank you to all of you for being here today, for supporting and building this incredible vision, which is now just not a vision, it is something we can see and enjoy. Congratulations.
Give her another round of applause. You know, I have to say, for those of you, most people don't even know who their state representatives are or their federal representatives, and I want to give a special shout out to Senator Richardson because a lifelong dedication to public service, having been in government myself, I can tell you, you hear a lot of bad things about elected officials in particular and government officials. They're lazy, they're bureaucratic, whatever. And in most cases, the opposite is true. We know, sure, there are some people notorious today, and I won't get partisan, but that are in it perhaps for the wrong reasons, but there's a lot of hardworking, dedicated public servants like Senator Richardson. We need more of you. Thank you for that example. Thank you for what you do, and I hope many of the young people here will consider following in your footsteps. Well, fantastic. So, she talked about the innovation that's happening here, and now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to someone who's going to tell us a lot about it. Dr. Sophie Chu is Captura's principal oceanographer and director of monitoring, reporting, and verification, or MRV, which you're going to hear a lot about. She spent over a decade developing ocean carbon technology to better understand carbon cycling, and Captura's mission is to harness the power of the ocean to heal the climate, remove carbon emissions from the ocean and the atmosphere to make, in other words, our lives better. Please welcome Dr. Sophie Chu.
Thanks, Terry. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'd like to start off by saying thank you all for coming today. Thank you for AltaSea for spotlighting Captura today and inviting me to speak about our story. My name is Sophie Chu, as Terry said. I'm the principal oceanographer and director of monitoring, reporting, and verification. It's a mouthful, but we like to just simplify it by saying MRV. Captura is a marine carbon dioxide removal startup company. We're based in Pasadena, California. And I'm going to talk to you today about our journey to large-scale carbon removal. Shortly. Which button do I press? Anybody? Okay. So climate change is real. It's happening pretty fast. Basically, it's caused by us humans releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. So since the Industrial Revolution, we've released lots of CO2 into the atmosphere. Basically, every year, we're releasing more than 40 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. A billion tons is equivalent to 200 million elephants. Okay, so this is a lot of CO2. It's a big problem, but I think humans are good at solving big problems. So this is going to be a video. Oh. Okay, sorry. So I want you to see in the video that the Earth is mostly covered by ocean. So about 71% of the surface area of the Earth is ocean. And basically at most of these points, that's where that CO2 from the atmosphere that we've pumped CO2 into is also going to the ocean. So the ocean has basically absorbed about 30% of the emissions every year. And that's not without consequence to the ocean, but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. The Intergovernmental or International Panel on Climate Change has basically said that we're reaching the point where we can't just rely on reducing emissions. We have to also do carbon dioxide removal. And I'm going to use an analogy to explain what I mean by that. So think about the atmosphere like your bathtub at home, okay? And the water going into the bathtub is our CO2 emissions that we release into the atmosphere. And so you can imagine if we keep releasing CO2 into the atmosphere, or we keep that water tap on, your bathtub will eventually overflow and cause damage to your house. Is it working now? No. Okay. Oh, back one. So one thing we can do is reduce those CO2 emissions or turn that water tap down a little bit. So that is things like Terry was talking about, renewable energy, electric cars, electrification of the grid. There's lots of people working on different solutions right now that reduce CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. But we're at the point now where the bathtub is getting too full. So even if we reduce the CO2 emissions, it's not going to be enough to keep the bathtub from overflowing or avoid the most severe consequences of climate change. So we need to do carbon removal, which is pulling the plug from the bottom of the tub to let some of that water out or remove some of that CO2 from the atmosphere. Does that help explain carbon removal? Okay. So this is where Captura comes in. The founders are two professors from the California Institute of Technology. The company was founded in 2021. And they thought about this big problem of climate change and how are we going to solve it. So immediately they realized that it would be great to leverage the world's greatest existing carbon removal device, which is already the ocean. But as I alluded to before, that's not without consequence to the ocean. So as the ocean has taken up CO2 from the atmosphere, it has led to increasing temperatures in the ocean acidification, which basically means that the acidity level of the ocean is increasing, which is causing an imbalance in a lot of the marine organisms. And so we need a solution where we can remove CO2 from the atmosphere, but without negatively affecting the ocean. And that's where they came up with this approach that our company works on called direct ocean capture. So how does our process work? So as I mentioned earlier, the atmosphere and the ocean are kind of in this equilibrium where CO2 gets exchanged between the two. Our process uses renewable energy and takes seawater in, and we essentially strip the CO2, the carbon dioxide, out of the seawater. That CO2 can be used or put underground, sequestered, and that CO2 depleted seawater goes back into the ocean and it takes up CO2 from the atmosphere because of that equilibration balance that happens naturally. Next slide. To another analogy to explain how that works is that if you think about a carbonated beverage, seltzer or soda, the reason why when you open it, there's bubbles that come out, right? That's because there's CO2 in the beverage. And there's more CO2 in the beverage than there is in the air above it. So the reason why it re-equilibrates is this law called Henry's law, which states that the amount of gas in a liquid has to be equal to the amount of gas in the air above it. So when you open the soda, after a while, these bubbles come out and your soda is flat. Okay, so we're sort of doing this in reverse. If you think about a soda can that has lower CO2 than the air above it, that CO2 will go into the water. And so that's what we're doing with the ocean. We take CO2 out of the ocean, making the concentration of CO2 in the ocean lower than the atmosphere, so that pulls the CO2 down. Okay, and so what makes our process unique? It's simple. We require no other inputs other than seawater and renewable energy. It's sustainable. We're not producing any byproducts. We don't require any external chemicals. Everything that is made within the system is used. And we can measure that CO2 that we store. It's a direct stream that can be used for sequestration, as I said before, or for a product like making cement or making carbonated beverages. The energy that we use can be curtailed or off-peak energy that is not being utilized. And we are developing our own technology that is used in electrodialysis. The main power, the horse of the technology is the electrodialysis system, and we're developing our own membranes that make it more efficient. And then we're operating at a couple different scales, one at AltaSea that you can see outside in a little bit, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as well. Okay, so I mentioned that the CO2 that we captured could be stored or used. That gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of where we can put our plants. And so if it's stored, you're keeping the CO2 out of the atmosphere, right? So this is really carbon dioxide removal. It's storing for a long period of time, tens of thousands of years. And it can be used to address difficult to abate sectors. So, we're probably not going to stop flying airplanes. So those emissions will always be there. People are trying to develop sustainable fuels for planes to reduce the emissions, but there still will always be some level of emissions from flying. So carbon removal can address those sectors. And then using the CO2 could be for fuels, it could be for beverages or food, cement production, and aquaculture operations. So we have a couple projects where we're working with aquaculture companies that I'll also explain in a little bit. So my job at the company is to make sure that what we're doing is safe for the ocean. So we have, again, I want to reiterate, we're not using any external chemicals. We're not producing any byproducts or waste. And our effluent, or the processed seawater that we return back to the ocean that has low carbon dioxide is also higher pH. So that is more basic seawater, which means we can help to counteract any sort of local ocean acidification that happens before that water takes up CO2 from the atmosphere. We have a lot of R&D and monitoring that we do at the AltaSea site and our other site in Hawaii. And we've published our own in-house MRV protocol, but we've also worked with another company to publish a sort of third-party independent protocol. And so this is sort of where we've been and where we're going. We've developed, our first pilot was developed in 2022. That was just a little baby pilot. It was 1 ton of CO2 removal per year. That was down in Newport Beach at the Caltech Marine Lab. And then in 2023, we moved to AltaSea, and we established a 100-ton per year system here. And we've done a lot of R&D here. It's been great to be at this site and have access to seawater, and all the wonderful people at AltaSea have helped us out a lot. And we've done a lot of our ocean health studies here, and also a lot of the community engagement. And then our third pilot, which began operating early this year, is in Kona, Hawaii, right behind the airport there. And that is 1,000 tons per year. So basically, we've been scaling up pretty quickly, and our next step is to find a site to build a commercial plant, which would be in the tens of thousands of tons per year. And we're targeting by the end of next year to start building that. And I just wanted to highlight our Hawaii plant. We have a virtual tour. So if you scan the QR code up there, you can go through and kind of walk through the process and see all the different components and understand what each part does. And so I wanted to focus a little bit also on what I do at Captura. So my job is the MRV, and that basically is twofold. So there's the protecting marine ecosystems, making sure we're doing no harm, and then doing all the monitoring there to prove that the impacts are minimal. And then we're also focused on quantifying the carbon removal, validating it, verifying it. And that's with a third party called ICYMI. They're a carbon registry that has developed a protocol to verify what we, basically the system of carbon credits works like The supplier, our technology developer like us, we develop produce carbon credits from sequestering CO2. And then we give all of our data to a third party, like a carbon registry, and they go through and check that we said we did everything that we did. And that's how you get like a high quality carbon credit. Next slide. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about all the projects that we do with all of our partners on looking at those impacts on the marine ecosystem and quantifying the carbon removal. So Terry was talking about aquaculture earlier, and we're really looking at how our process can co-locate with aquaculture and produce benefits for the aquaculture company. So we've looked at the effects of our water on kelp, Pacific topsmelt fish, different phytoplankton species, and mussels. And mussels are sentinel species used in ecotoxicity testing studies. And so we're really looking at a broad range of the lower trophic levels of the marine food web to make sure that we're not going to negatively impact them, but also we're looking to see if we're going to potentially positively benefit them because our effluent is more basic, and so that could help calcifying organisms form their shells better, grow faster, any sort of, we're looking for, and also basically our effluent, what we've seen is that it can help the aquaculture company in terms of processing their water. They don't have to do as much treatment. So this is all continuous work in process for all of these. And we're seeing pretty good results so far, and it's really encouraging, and we're continuing to expand on those. Yeah. Next one. So I just wanted to end by saying thank you again for listening and for your attention, and that climate change is going to be a challenging issue to work on, and but I think it's tough and it's going to be a long road, but with persistence and innovation and people that care about the environment and the ocean, we can turn hope into progress. And with people like you who obviously care about the ocean and the environment, I think we can all kind of sort of work together and make it happen. Thanks. I'll take any questions.
Questions for Sophie? Who's got a question? Stand up, please, and just say who you are, and let's use the mic so that everyone can hear your question.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. It was very well done, very informative, and it's very critical work. I'm curious about the siting analysis that Captura does for determining locations for its plants. Like, for example, does it choose areas by the ocean that are less polluted, so as to do less filtration? What does it use like solar analysis to determine like maybe what's the best place for solar panels for renewable energy and all of that?
So I think it was about siting criteria.
Siting.
So we're really looking for places that have renewable energy, places that have sequestration, places that have good atmospheric drawdown characteristics. Those are the top three.
I see. Thank you.
And I would just add to that, if I might, another good example of, for example, EcoWave I mentioned before. We're just putting their demonstration project here in the port. So that could be in the future a great partnership where you have wave energy near a port and then facilities like Captura using that energy and drawing down more carbon. Other questions? Right over here.
Hi, thanks so much. I was wondering if you could talk more about the storage element. With engineered carbon solutions, it seems like that's kind of the big hairy issue that isn't quite solved for yet. So wondering if you could talk about what form the CO2 takes when it is captured, and then what are your plans for storage?
So just to start off, Captura's boundary ends after we capture the CO2. So my expertise is definitely not in the CO2 storage part. But when we capture it, it's a gas. When it is sequestered, it's a supercritical fluid. So can you not hear me? We can hear you. So that's kind of what I know. The other thing that I know is that we're going to be working with a sequestration partner who's an expert in all of the, making sure that there's no leakage, all those factors, and making sure that, all of the emissions goes into the LCA. So if we choose, it behooves us to choose a spot where the CO2 is going to be stored for a long time.
Add to that, if I may.
Yeah.
So if I could just also add to that, this is a big problem for all kinds of carbon capture. So you've probably heard of direct air capture, where there's efforts to just pull it directly out of the air. As Sophie mentioned, about 1/3 of our carbon pollution has gone into the ocean, but that means 2/3 is up in that atmosphere. That's what's giving us the problems of climate change that we're seeing in the headlines every single day. So the companies that are doing that are facing the same challenge. Some are injecting it deep into the earth and then studying to make sure that it stays there. There have been some programs that have certainly been controversial, but you can understand what the goal was in the Permian Basin, where a lot of the oil still comes from in Texas and the center of the country. There have been efforts to use that CO2 to pump it into the earth to get more of the oil out. So the oil wells have been depleted, and so now to get it out, you need to pressurize them again with a gas. So the notion is that you send the CO2 down there, you get more oil, but when you then turn that oil into a fuel and it burns and it emits carbon, the theory is that there is less carbon going into the atmosphere than you sequestered. So you essentially have carbon negative transportation fuels. Now, again, that's controversial for a wide variety of reasons, but every petroleum-powered car and truck sold today is going to be on the road for 20 years or more, burning liquid fuels. So we do need to do something about reducing the carbon intensity of those fuels. We've got biofuels, which obviously can be better in some ways, but that's an interesting theory, is that if you could sequester, pull that carbon back out of the atmosphere, yes, you're going to release some when that oil is burned later, but it's less than what you put in the ground. Maybe that's a reasonable trade-off. Again, I'm not taking a side on that. I don't know all the science of it, but your question is a good one, and all of the entities that are trying to sequester carbon are facing that same challenge, and again, the MRV, the measuring, reporting, and verifying of that. Other questions? I think we have time for one more. And obviously, Sophie will be around afterwards, and we're going to invite you to come out and actually see the facility after the program, so you'll have plenty of time with her.
All right, so like how much would an overall plant cost, and like how would you get the funding for it?
Depends on the size of the plant. And the funding so far, so we're backed by venture capital, mostly venture capital branches of large corporations. And so that's kind of, right now we're looking for a commercial site and a commercial partner that would potentially fund that site.
But I would just also add to that, in theory, it would be paid for by the polluters. And there's a basic concept in environmental protection that the polluter should pay. And in this case, the ones that are emitting and can't stop emitting for some reason, can't switch over to renewables or stop, let's say, a refinery. Again, we're going to be using a lot of oil and other products like that for a long period of time. So the notion is that those polluters would buy credits, so the amount of carbon they put into the atmosphere would be offset by companies like Captura drawing a similar amount or more down. And they would pay anywhere from $100 to $500 per ton. And you heard Sophie talk about the commercial scale would be tens of thousands of tons. So that ultimately is what should pay for these facilities. We're going to need investment capital and grant money to get them started, but then ultimately it should be the polluter pays. Well, let me thank Dr. Sophie Chu one more time. And as I mentioned at the end of the program today, we're going to invite you out onto the wharf, and she'll be happy to show you actually how the magic is made. But right now, it's my great pleasure to invite Janet Parga, who's AltaSea's Ocean Pathways Coordinator, and our instructors, Charlie Flint and Laura Muller, to the stage to start the Summer High School Mentee and College Intern Recognition.
Thank you, Terry. So as Terry mentioned, my name is Janet Parga. I'm the Ocean Pathways Coordinator here at AltaSea, and joining me on stage are AltaSea's instructors, Lauren Mueller and Charles Flint. We will be recognizing our high school students who completed an 8-week mentorship program, either in ocean cultivation / aquaculture led by Lauren, and the marine energy and exploration course led by Charlie. After that, we will recognize our interns who completed at least 150 hours in an internship program, either directly with AltaSea or with one of our on-site partners. So to start, I'll let Charlie kick it off.
All right, well, thanks for coming. It's been a great pleasure working with these kids. They're an awesome group. They've done some really cool, innovative projects. They'll be pitching their ideas at the end, but I'm going to throw out the first pitch. These are the guys, these are the students you want on your team. These are the ones you want to hire, and these are the ones you want to support. They're incredible kids, so you'll see when they pitch their projects. So I'll now announce the names. Ryan Andrews, Lucy Berman, Goodwin Chen, Jackson Dunn, Tanvi Inagante, Zaira Gilmet, Tiffany Gernioan, Ryan Lowe, Kaya Shin, Catherine Tay, Sonita Tay, and Don Tran.
Sorry, parents, if you want to get a picture, now is your chance before we call up the next group. Thank you again, Charlie. And now it is my pleasure again to call up Lauren Mueller, our ocean cultivation instructor, who will be awarding the certificates to her students.
Thank you, Janet. And the mentees and the interns all have booths around the corner, so presenting their projects and their activities that they have worked on for the past 8 weeks. So after our presentation, if you get a chance, please come around and check them out. They worked very hard, and they're very exciting. Okay, first off, we have Sophia Agrusa. Ryan Cheng. Aiden Ko. Joshua Koretsky. Good work, guys. Vince Mason Nesbitt. Paige Maxon. Lada Nosar. Hayden Petrie Norris. and Jaden Valle. Oh, I forgot one, sorry. Alejandro Lee and Hope Norris. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Lauren. So now I'm going to call up our interns again who completed 160 hours in our internship program. All of our students are undergraduate or recent graduates from around California and some from out of state. And I ask everybody, please hold your applause until we call everyone on stage. Thank you. Okay. Welcome Kelly Kai, Ayana Enriquez, Natalie Garcia, Sophie Harmon, Kalani Ono, Delilah Perez, Shayla Price, Angeles Rios, Jalen Rosas, Arian Tomar, Renee Urea, Clark Van Garder, Lori Van Litten, Skylar Williams, and Takuji Yamazaki. And I didn't say this earlier, but not only are our students receiving recognition for their hard work and dedication here at AltaSea, but they also are receiving recognition from Senator Laura Richardson's office. So we thank her office for acknowledging the hard work our students put into the program this summer. Thank you. Sorry, I'll get out of your way for pictures. Oh my God. Why do you have a mask? Yes. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to say that our internship and our mentorship are just two of the programs we have here at AltaSea. We also have a very wonderful volunteer program. It is my honor to call up Richard Ellickson, who has been our volunteer for the longest here at AltaSea, with a very quick announcement. Welcome, Richard.
Hi there. I'm here to ask for your help. We need volunteers. We need them all the time, but especially now that this building is filling up, management is going to come down to the volunteers and ask for more from them. I hope that you may know someone who is looking for a volunteer opportunity. If so, we would very much like to talk with them. You need to be at least 18. Our wish is that you are able to work here from 9 to 5 because those are our basic shifts. But we will talk to anybody who would like to put in some time at AltaSea. The thing that I tell people is that you need to find this place interesting. If you do, and you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, you will like it here. All that you have to do is to go to altasea.org/volunteer, put in your name and your basic information about what you'd like to do. We will contact that person right away, talk with them, and see if we have a fit for volunteering here. And if so, invite them to come on down for a tour and a look at what our volunteers are doing right now. What we need to do is to introduce people to this place and what's going on here, and to the staff here, so that they can immediately start helping other people on days like this and as tenants as we fill it out. So if you have anyone that would like to talk about volunteering to AltaSea, just have them sign in on our site. Our volunteer coordinator, Michelle, are you here? Okay, she's right over by the red sail, waving her hands right now. That's Michelle Raymond, who is our volunteer coordinator. After I get through here, I will be over also at that desk. So if there's anyone here who would like to talk to us about becoming a volunteer at AltaSea, we would love to talk with you. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy.
Before you go, Richard, I want to just tell you, you heard that this is our longest serving volunteer. This man started out when this place was under construction, even before then. When an event would happen, he'd stand out in the hot sun and direct parking. He'd help take out the trash. He would help with the other volunteers. It doesn't matter. He is really the perfect volunteer. I forgive him the Celtics cap. We're going to forget about that for the time being. But he has really been fantastic. We're unfortunately going to see less of him because he's moving to Long Beach. But please give Richard a thank you. AltaSea, thank you for his 3 years of service. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're the best. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you again for coming. Now, you know, I didn't put her up to this, but when Senator Richardson asked who had contributed to make all this possible, and a lot of hands did not go up, you still have a chance. You could go back there and grab one of those great t-shirts or a hat, or just join AltaSea. Even $20 would be helpful. Obviously, being a nonprofit, our education programs, our workforce programs, our internship programs that you saw, all of our work with the different companies here and researchers can't happen without your help. So please consider that. When we break, don't forget, as you heard Janet mention, right around the corner, the exhibits of what the students worked on, showcasing their work, and go outside on the wharf to see Captura and how that magic is made. One last thing is September 27th is Blue Hour, and that's another way you can contribute. Buy a ticket to Blue Hour. That's also on our website. It's a great party. And this year, we're going to be celebrating the culinary arts of blue food, featuring celebrity chefs Andrew Zimmern, Sammy Mansour, and dinner by Chef Dustin Trainey. And there's much more information on the poster at the entrance. Thank you for coming. Enjoy visiting the rest of our tabling, the rest of our partners here, and enjoy your time at AltaSea. Thank you.